Rebecca, and I'm going to adjust the volume there. Let's try that. It's an honor and a delight to be here this morning and to welcome you all to the North Shore Unitarian community, where it is our mission to empower people to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. In this community, we celebrate people from all walks of life, no matter what you do or what you question. No matter who you are, who you love, we hope you'll feel welcome here. Because here is a place where we believe that embracing our diversity together makes us stronger, wiser, and more whole. We gather here today on the unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. Most of us are descendants of settlers on this land. As Canadians, we're called by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of 2015 to acknowledge the land on which we gather, but we are fully aware that simply mentioning their name is not the same thing as reparations. We have some fun announcements to start. So first of all, please stay for the barbecue lunch afterwards. Dennis and a whole group of friends have been downstairs making burgers. It's a suggested donation of $5, but Dennis wants me to say, if you didn't bring $5, come anyway. Come have a burger. Next, there's a Sunday brunch planned for July 23rd. We like to eat here at North Shore Unitarians. It's 10:30, and information will be forthcoming about how to RSVP for the event, but it's a free event for members and friends.
It's like the 30th.
It is 30th of July.
It's the 30th. There's a Sunday brunch not planned for July 23rd. It's actually for the 30th. It's a good community here. We keep us all on track. Thank you. I don't know where the 23rd came from. It's a good Sunday. Have a brunch at your house. Yeah. Okay, and then there's no more Sunday services for the rest of the summer. This is the last service of the church season. But Brian and Kate Wellward are leading some walks over the summer on Sunday mornings, and on the church website there'll be details because they're in different places each Sunday. I think they still need a few volunteers to host some of them too. So there'll be a short walk, and then I think a plan for coffee somewhere or something. So still a chance to connect. And the one last announcement is a huge thank you to everyone who has contributed over this last year to help do things for this beloved community. Coretta Scott King said, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." So, would you please stand if you have been a board member, a greeter, an usher, a choir member. I know, how come no one's standing? Because I know some of you. Yeah, choir member, soup maker, welcome committee member, hospitality contributor, sound person, slide changer, or film crew. We want to thank you with a huge round of applause. Thank you. And we're going to give an extra round of applause in a moment for those folks who've been team leaders of those people, because that's actually an unseen or invisible kind of role in our congregation. So a huge round of applause for the team leaders. And we'll probably do it downstairs at the barbecue, but we also want to thank those lovely people who are making a lovely barbecue lunch for us. So, yeah. So let's get on to the service because we have a barbecue lunch to get to. To start our service, we'll light our chalice. It's an indication that our time here is sacred. So if you can join me as we light our chalice, we kindle the flame as a symbol of our gathering.
May the light of understanding illuminate our darkness. May the warmth of sharing bring us peace.
So now, we are invited into a ritual of centering and connection. In a moment, should you wish to participate, we'll welcome you to silently come up and light a candle of joy or aspiration. Know that your joy, sharing it, can bring joy to others in this community. And or you might have a grief that you wish to release. And if so, please drop a stone into our communion water. Take comfort in knowing that your burden is shared by this congregation. Together, we'll weave the threads of this community into the tapestry of our collective lives. I'm actually going to start this morning, and I'm going to drop, that was loud, I'm going to drop the first stone. And this morning I dropped it for the Ukraine, because I can only imagine being in Ukraine yesterday and watching the news of a march towards Moscow, and they must have just been holding their breath. And then they just must have exhaled slowly as that turned around. And so I just want to drop a stone for the people of Ukraine and what it must be like for the last year and a half for them. And I'm going to light a candle this morning. And I'm lighting it for the Ferris family. Ron, Katie, Minnie, and Cora left North Vancouver yesterday. And I hope they're excited for where they're going. Our community welcomed them with love. And we need to send them off with love. So for the Ferris family in their new adventure. And now it's your turn. As we listen to some beautiful music, I welcome you to come up and light a candle and drop a stone.
Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on. Carry on. Carry on. This one knocked me to the ground. This one dropped me to my knees. I should have seen it coming, but it's alright. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember and bring me sprigs of rosemary? Be my sanctuary till I can carry on. Carry on. Carry on. In a state of true believers, on streets called us and them, it's gonna take some time till the world feels safe again. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember? Bring me sprigs of rosemary. Be my sanctuary till I can carry on. Carry on. Carry on. You can rest here in Brown Chapel or with a circle of friends, a quiet grove of trees or between two bookends. Will you be my refuge, my haven in the storm? Will you keep the embers warm when my fire's all but gone? Will you remember? Bring me sprigs of rosemary. Be my sanctuary till I can carry on. Carry on. Carry on. Carry on.
So I'm going to try not to breathe, and I'm going to try and talk slow. Both of those are kind of hard for me. Okay, so the theme of today's service is the idea of sanctuary. Now, traditionally in religion, the word sanctuary is referred to a sacred or holy place, usually set aside or apart from the ordinary world. Originally, sanctuaries were natural locations, like a grove or a hillside, a place where the divine or sacred was believed to be especially present. Over time, this word sanctuary has come to be used for any holy place, like a temple or a church. In our building, this room is the sanctuary, right? Not the rest of the building. Outside of religious circles, it's a word for anywhere where a person feels especially safe and serene, a place of refuge. The idea of sanctuary as a political refuge was first spoke of in the Hebrew Bible, which recounts the creation of cities of refuge. In the case of accidental death, I think that's really funny that they even had a clause about accidental death, the killer could flee to a city of refuge, and that person was then protected from vengeance from the family of the slain. Later, in Greek and Roman societies, they had the concept of refuge in places of sanctuary. And then by the 4th century, the right to sanctuary was formalized by early Christians. By the 13th century, a person could hide in a church for 40 days, and in some instances stay forever, and that was known as seeking sanctuary. Charles II offered asylum to persecuted Calvinists from France in 1681, and that was probably the first instance of a state offering protection to people who were citizens of another state. The Underground Railroad is an example, a series of homes, barns, churches that sheltered Black Americans from the southern US as they traveled. They were fleeing slavery, and they traveled north, right, to Canada, or at least to the northern US. The stops or stations of the Underground Railroad were those safe houses. A more current sanctuary movement was in the 1980s, helping protect Americans who were opposed to the Vietnam War and resisted the draft. William Sloane Coffin used the word or the term a sanctuary for the conscientious. Churches in several cities announced that they would be sanctuaries for draft resistors. Our own congregation sheltered a number of draft resistors. There might even be some draft resistors still in our congregation. Okay. Now, I had a great, Jill and I were on a walk with Elgene one day, and she told us one of the stories about supporting draft resistors and the story of the jacket. So some of you may know this, but when they were bringing some of the draft resistors across the border, they would always give them a nice jacket to wear so that as they were passing through kind of customs, they looked a bit more respectable. But this jacket got reused and reused and reused. So they always thought it was kind of funny about the jacket. Other similar things continue to happen around the world, right? The origin of offering political sanctuary is deeply rooted in spiritual traditions, and it connects deeply to our UU principles relating to justice, freedom, the right of conscience, respect for individuals, the goal of world community, liberty, justice for all. And sanctuary movements are a powerful example of giving life-saving, life-giving safe space. We must all continue to endeavor towards there being sanctuary for all, safety for all. Of course, outside the political realm, the word sanctuary on an individual level reflects a sense of presence, of peace, and of safety. It can bring back some conflicted memories for some, but for most of us, the idea of sanctuary brings up feelings that are akin to the word refuge. It speaks to the universal longing for a space to retreat from the dangers or threats of the world. If you think about family spaces and friendships that protect and restore and heal us, we'll spend more time talking about that in the service, that idea of sanctuary on an individual level. As the well-loved Irish Proverbs puts it, it is in the shelter of each other that people live. We're now going to welcome Kathy, who's going to perform for us a beautiful song. The music in today's service is done by the 4 leads of the choir, and we're really grateful that each of them is taking a part today in that. Thank you, Kathy.
Catherine.
Catherine, sorry. And Catherine, who's playing piano. That was the cue. I missed that, sorry.
Rows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air and feather canyons everywhere. I looked at clouds that way, but now they only block the sun. They rain and snow on
got in my way. I looked at clouds from both sides now, from up and down. Still somehow it's clouds illusions I recall. I really don't know clouds at all. Moons and Junes and Ferris wheels, the dizzy dancing way you feel, where every fairy tale is real. I looked at love that way, but now it's just another show. You leave them laughing when you go, and if you care, don't let them know. Don't give yourself away. I looked at love from both sides now, from give and take, and still somehow it's love's illusions I recall. I really don't know at all. Tears and fears and feeling proud to say I love you right out loud. Dreams and schemes and circus crowds, I looked at life that way. But now old friends are acting strange. They shake their heads, they say I've changed. Well, something's lost, but something's gained in living every day. I looked at life from both sides now, from win and lose, and still somehow with life's illusions I recall. I really don't know love at all.
Thank you, Kat. Okay, this is the participatory part of the service. I'll share a few thoughts about sanctuaries in our own lives, but then I welcome you to come on up to the microphone that's on the music stand, and there'll be 3 points at which you're welcome if you have a thought about sanctuaries to share. If we dig deeper about that thought of personal or individual sanctuaries, it's important to reflect, I think, about how sanctuaries in our lives do more than just protect us. They also send us. They don't just help us heal on our journeys, they also strengthen us for new journeys ahead. In their fullest, they're not escape houses, they're more like fueling stations. They don't just whisper, "Gotta rest." They whisper, "Be filled and go." Think of a toddler on the ground beside their parent's leg, leaving and returning, leaving and returning. That home base, it's not a tether, but the very thing that allows them to venture out. Wise words from Parker Palmer. What a cool name, eh? Parker Palmer. When I was a kid, sanctuary meant one thing. It was a big room with stained glass windows and hard wooden benches where my family worshipped every Sunday. Church attendance was not optional for my sisters and I. So the sanctuary is where I learned to pray. Pray that the service would end soon. Pray that God would release me back into the wild. Years later, in his 70s, he reflects, living in the world that's both astonishingly beautiful, and horrifically cruel, the concept of sanctuary is as vital as breathing to me. Sometimes I find it in churches or in monasteries, and other sites designated as sacred. But more often I find it in places sacred to my soul, in the natural world, in the company of a trustworthy friend, in solitary or shared silence, in the ambience of a good poem or good music. Sanctuary is wherever I find safe space to regain my bearings, reclaim my soul, heal my wounds, return to the world as a wounded healer. It's not merely about finding shelter from the storm, it's about spiritual survival. So, any thoughts? There'll be an awkward silence while someone decides to be brave to come up. Karen?
As you know,
I'm going to give that mic, because that one's not.
when I think about finding something that's... Am I supposed to turn this on?
Take it back. Use the podium, says the sound guy. There you go.
When I think about deeper thoughts that I want to share, the first place I look is this wonderful book by the poet David White, Consolations, the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words. And this is what he says about ground. And ground is, to me, our sanctuary. Ground is what lies beneath our feet. It is the place where we already stand, a state of recognition, the place or the circumstances to which we belong, whether we wish to or not. It is what holds and supports us, but also what we do not want to be true. It is what challenges us, physically or psychologically, irrespective of our hoped-for needs. It is the living, underlying foundation that tells us what we are, where we are, what season we are in, and what, no matter what we wish in the abstract, is about to happen in our body, in the world, or in the conversation between the two. To come to ground is to find a home in circumstances and in the very physical body we inhabit in the midst of those circumstances. And above all, to face the truth, no matter how difficult that truth may be. To come to ground is to begin the courageous conversation, to step into difficulty, and by taking that first step, begin the movement through all difficulties, to find the support and foundation that has been beneath our feet all along, a place to step onto, a place on which to stand, and a place from which to step.
Thank you, Karen.
I have a book which I treasured for some years because it has some wonderful ideas. And it is written, can you hear me? The title is On Tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. Now, we're in another century, but most of these ideas still apply. The book is by Timothy Snyder, and this had one of the sections in the book which really struck me many times over the many years since. One of the concepts is defend institutions. It is institutions that help us to preserve decency. They need our help as well. Do not speak of our institutions unless you make them yours by acting on their behalf. Institutions do not protect themselves. They fall one after the other unless each is defended from the beginning. So choose an institution you care about, a court, a newspaper, a law, a labor union, and take its side, or perhaps a church.
Is this working?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I found my sanctuary when I was a little girl. And it was in a CGIT camp, I think on Cultus Lake, I can't remember. I would go every year to one of these camps from quite a young age. And, excuse me, we would have our time of reflecting and being thankful in the woods. And we'd sit on logs, and we'd have beautiful words and sing songs and whatever. And as a young person, I knew that was me. And I was so fortunate to be brought up from 3 years old in the Unitarian Church. So I knew that that was always going to be my sacred space and a place of kindness, a place of love, a place of understanding, a place of acceptance. And I just feel very blessed that I found my sanctuary at a young age.
Thank you, Okay, we're going to take a little pause and we're going to sing a hymn together. And surprise, it's called Sanctuary by Matt Meyer.
Please rise as you are able, and if you feel like moving, or somehow having your body be part of this sanctuary, please feel free to do so.
Make us where we are a sanctuary, each made holy, love right through, with thanksgiving. We are a living sanctuary. Beyond all knowledge, there's compassion. Beyond all pain, there's a spirit burning brighter. There's a love to guide our way. Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, love right through, with thanksgiving. We are living sanctuary.
Let's do that first verse one more time, and if you can improvise over it, please do.
Make us aware we are a sanctuary, each made holy, love right through, with thanksgiving. We are living sanctuary.
So again from Parker Palmer, our deepest need is to protect and nurture the root of our inner wisdom. Some would call that the soul. That which makes work and life itself fruitful. If our inner wisdom or our soul is well fed, then we need neither to flee from the world nor exploit it. We can love the world with all of its and our flaws by trying to live in a way that models its best possibilities. That kind of love is possible, Parker says, only when we know when and where to seek sanctuary, reclaiming our souls, our inner wisdom, in order to engage in the world in life-giving ways. When service emerges from whatever kind of sanctuary nurtures the root of one's inner wisdom, then it's much less likely that that service to the world will be distorted. And we've all seen distorted activism. That community work that kind of comes from a weird place or with odd intention. Parker really says if we want to do compassionate work, we need to have sought sanctuary and be in a healthy place to then turn and do that compassionate work in the world. Marcia Stevenson, who's not able to be here in person today with us, she sent me this piece that I'm going to read for you. She's here in spirit. So a poem that she associates with the word sanctuary is called The Fountain by Denise Levertov. And Marcia discovered this in the anthologies of Cries of the Spirit, edited by Reverend Marilyn Sebo, who was a senior minister of First Unitarian Portland, 1992 to 2009. Marcia says, maybe the scene that's described in the poem is closer to the idea of an oasis in the desert, but in her view, an oasis is actually a sanctuary. And when you hear the words woman of that place, Marcia says, think of it maybe not so much as a goddess figure, which is one possible interpretation, but to Marcia it's also always suggested the embodiment of a spirit of compassion, both the compassion we receive from others and our capacity to offer it. Where that happens in human interaction is sanctuary, healing, and renewal. So here's The Fountain by Denise Levertov. Don't say there's no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall, and you drinking there too. And I too, before your eyes, found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see that we drank our fill and we were refreshed. Don't say there's no water. That fountain is there amongst its scalloped green and gray stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and through the rock. Thank you, Marcia. Other thoughts?
This is something that I wrote about 25 years ago. Feels like a different version of myself, for sure. It's very idealistic. I can't live it all the time, but it is still my idea. So it's called Listening, a Sacred Act. Something sacred there is about listening when the whole of our being is tuned to resonate with all that enters our field of experience. Such listening requires an openness, an interest in contact, in discovery, a faith, however momentary, that there is a place for everything under the sun. It is not half listening, as if we already know what is likely to happen in the next moment. It is the sense of not ever knowing completely what is here now, either within or around us. It's a willingness to be profoundly surprised. It is not listening from the perspectives of either survival or hope, tuned only to intimations of threat or promise, all else deemed irrelevant. Nor is it listening to judge whether something is worth hearing. It is a sense that all sounds and silence, all movement and stillness are eloquent expressions of the very nature of every aspect of reality, each equally significant in itself, as a part of the whole, regardless of any distress or pleasure we might feel in its presence. It's an alert curiosity and ready acknowledgement towards all that we perceive. It is not listening from a feeling of already being overwhelmed, too tangled in a sticky web of responsibilities, too tugged off balance by our responsiveness to want to respond to anything more. Nor is it listening in a state of numbness, so guarded against the residue of old pains that we dare not allow ourselves to resonate freely ever again. It is a sense of our inviolate core, a sense of the consummate importance of honoring the integrity of each part of every interaction, ourselves included, and a sense of our capacity to survive and be expanded by tremendous surges of sensation, however excruciating or ecstatic. It's a still center which is open to touch. And finally, it is not listening in resignation, having long ago given up a dream of being part of a mutually responsive world in which we give and receive welcome and accommodation. It is an act of commitment to expressing that dream, to doing one's best to bring it into being, to embodying in the moment all that the dream requires of each one of us. And therein lies its sacredness.
The offering for all of June is going to the Indian Residential School Survivor Society. So please give as generously as you're able. And Catherine is going to play a beautiful piece for us to read out. Thank you. than the ones we've heard. It's well known in the service dog training community that if a dog proves not to be service dog material, that is, if it fails its exams and it's deemed a soft dog, it can be released for adoption as a pet. Canada will always take it. Canada will take the soft dog. In World War II, William Faulkner tried out for the US Air Force and he failed. So he came up and he flew for the Royal Canadian Air Force. We took him in. We take in draft resistors and immigrants and soft dogs. That's Canada. I think UUs are Canada in microcosm. Oh, or maybe it's the other way around. Canada is UUism in microcosm. Either way, we are a sanctuary. We're the very definition of home. A place where, if you show up there, whatever your circumstances and with no question asks, they'll take you in.
These are my thoughts on sanctuary. On the first day I came to NSUC, I was hooked. I'm a heretic by some standards, but I knew right away that here in this place I could be honest and open about my beliefs. I loved the diversity of viewpoints. So I stayed for 32 years and contributed to the best of my ability. And when I hear the word sanctuary, I think of a safe place, a haven, a place where I can express myself and learn from others. And that's what this has been for me. Many years ago, as a very keen new president of NSUC, I referred to this sanctuary of people as my beloved community. I didn't come up with that phrase myself, I borrowed it, but I used it because it really so clearly represented what NSUC means to me. But NSUC is not a perfect community. There are no perfect people here, and sometimes, as we all know, church can be downright messy. So maybe I should have referred to NSUC as my messy, imperfect, beloved community. And I'm really okay with that descriptor because maybe the alternative would be no community at all. Life and people just are messy and imperfect. So despite that, what I so admire about this community is that it teaches me to love better. At church, I don't get to choose who comes in the door, but I've learned to see all of them as people of goodwill. Many are also among the most interesting people that I've met in the last 32 years, and some of them have become close friends. And others, I might not be so fond of. It's more difficult to make a connection. But here, our first principle calls me to respect everybody's inherent worth and dignity. And to do that, I have to build meaningful relationships with people, even when we disagree, perhaps vehemently and passionately, and sometimes with anger. For me, church is not a place where it's okay to dismiss people who don't agree with me. It's a place to say, help me understand why you think and feel the way you do, so that we can build common ground and then work together for more justice and love. Isn't that what we all want? More justice and love? So here we are, all of us imperfect people in this imperfect, messy, yet beloved community. And I hope we can get even better at making this a sanctuary, a safe place, a haven, a place where we can express ourselves respectfully and passionately while we learn from others. And that's how we'll help heal ourselves, heal each other, and heal our society.
Hi, I'm Liz Moffat. Carrie and I were searching for some sanctuary in the spring when we were in Paris, freezing cold, fires in the streets, garbage, civil unrest. We know the story, our epic holiday in Paris. And so we found some sanctuary in some surprising places for us. We wound up walking around in the old part of the city, Ile-Saint-Louis, and there was an ancient cathedral, Roman Catholic cathedral, and it was obviously under construction, and we thought we'd pop in during the week. Sometimes there's some beautiful organ music going on in these old cathedrals that we both love to hear. And we walked in, and it was an old cathedral. I don't know how many hundreds of years old there. And of course, with the great big cracks everywhere. Cracks, it's under repair. Cracks and under repair. And people come in the day and just come and sit for some reflection and leave. And we were totally surprised by this message that we saw at the door when we walked in and when we left, and that I really wanted to share with you, because it was a surprise to me about how it was written. This is about sanctuary. May the beauty of sacred life, capital L, fill this community that was cracked under repair over and over again. And may it fill the community and the hearts of all who pray here with hope. May all who come, weighted down by the problems of humanity, leave giving thanks for the wonder of human life. And I feel this here today in this sanctuary. Thank you.
If I was more organized, I would have turned this into a poem, but I'm actually not a very good poet, and I'm fairly organized, but not enough. I want to tell you about a place that I go to. I go to this place when I need to think. I go to this place when I'm upset about something. And I go to this place when I need to make sense of what's happening in my world, in my life. I've been going to this place quite a bit this last year. My place is a cabin in the woods, and it's beautiful. It overlooks a lake right in front of me. There is a small dock that goes down to the lake. On my right is an open space full of light and sun and grass. And on my left is a woods with a beautiful path that wanders through the woods. And for some reason, the sun seems to always shine through the trees. My cabin in the woods is a figment of my imagination. My cabin in the woods has a rocking chair on the porch, and that rocking chair is where I sit when all those things I need to do happen. I know this cabin really well. I can picture it in pretty great detail. However, it is just a rocking chair in a room in my house, and it is my sanctuary. Thank you.
About the light while banishing the dark heart, walking around cut in half, living in the head while denying the flesh will only get you so far. We came to this earth to experience it all, the messy and the beautiful. Show me that you're human. this I have embraced, enjoying every aspect of life. Perfection is dull and unattainable, leaving me craving what is real. We came to this earth to experience it all, the messy and the beautiful. Show me that you're human and I'll kiss your scars, celebrating everything, all that you are. We're gathered here today to witness the marriage of two seemingly opposites. Light loving shadow, shadow loving light, an ending to the end of this world. We came to this earth to experience it all, the messy and the beautiful. Show me that you're human and I'll kiss your scars, celebrating everything. We came to this earth to experience it all, the messy and the beautiful. Show me that you're human and I'll kiss your scars, everything, making peace with everything, celebrating everyone, all that we are.
Thank you, Bev. We all need sanctuary. How important to honor the people, the places, and spaces that are our sanctuary. Thank you for your contributions and your collective thoughts. I'm sure others have thoughts that they want to share, and we have a great barbecue that's going to happen downstairs shortly that we can chat about other stories. Again, from Parker Palmer, our deepest need is to protect and nurture that root of inner wisdom, maybe the soul, that makes work and life itself fruitful. Sanctuaries can help us do that. If our inner wisdom, our soul, is well fed, then we need neither to flee the world nor exploit it. Instead, we can love the world with all of its and all of our flaws by trying to live in a way that models its finest, messy, and beautiful possibilities. Diana is going to close us out with a beautiful song for us. Amazing, amazing, all of the musicians. Thank you so much. What a beautiful gift this morning. Our formal time together is coming to a close, so let's extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this flame. Carry with us the light of vision and the warmth of the world. The world calls us to live with depth, meaning, and purpose. We go forth with courage and love. Let's rise in body or spirit and sing the last song we'll sing together, The Fire of Commitment by Jason Shelton.
And if I might invite you, you know this well, anchor your feet on the ground, your head right up there, and sing out strong and loud.
There we go.
From the tides of days remember, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live in assurance of the flame that burns within, when our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice lived by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
If you're able, please remain standing. And if you're comfortable, grab a hand or touch elbows, or maybe just imagine that you're touching hands at least. We'll close our time together, and in fact, close the door on this church year, this being the last service of the church year, with these words adapted from writings by Erica Hewitt and Maureen Killoran. Feel it, the hand in yours. It belongs to a person whose heart is sometimes tender, whose skin is sometimes thin, whose eyes sometimes fill with tears, whose laughter is a beautiful sound. The hand that you hold belongs to a person who's seeking wholeness and who trusts that you're doing the same. May our hearts be filled with compassion. May our voices remain clear and strong. May our minds remain open and curious. And may our hands be ever outstretched to help one another, to connect, to rebuild this sanctuary, both the physical one we're standing in and the spiritual one we create together, and beyond. May we work towards a world where everyone knows what it is to be safe and feel loved.
Yay.